Hello and welcome to the Inspiration and Enlightenment Slow Talk. Today I'm going to talk about emotional distancing. In the last video I discussed emotional epidemics, or how it comes to emotional epidemics. Emotions belong to our body, or rather our body conjures emotions. Naturally it does this only in certain situations. Or certain situations trigger emotions. For example, in a dangerous situation, the body triggers a fight emotional reaction. In case a potential mate passes by, the body triggers infatuation. Now, the problem with humans is that not only external situations can trigger emotions, but also thoughts, images, intellectual concepts and things like that. So for example, if we believe that our country is threatened by immigration, then, and we think about that 10 or 20 times a day, these thoughts will trigger fear or worry inside us, and if that happens too often, these emotions will become chronic. And if these things are then multiplied or spread by propaganda, then many people fall victim to these chronic emotions, and we have an emotional epidemic. So the question is, how do we get out of these chronic emotions? And the answer is by emotional distancing. In order to fully understand that, I need to take a step back and explain the way our ego identifies itself. So we are immortal souls having planetary experiences, and this is enabled by our spacesuit, which is the body. So when we wake up in the morning, our soul descends and merges with the ego, the avatar of this incarnation, and produces our waking soul-ego identification. But the soul's identification is fluid. So strong emotional surges can pull it further down into the spacesuit, causing it to identify itself with emotions like fear or aggression. Worse, if something pulls the soul's identification all the way into the external world, where it may identify itself with a job or a title. And if it loses that job, the ego may enter an identity crisis. The opposite can happen too. In case of a severe shock, identification may jolt back up and out of the body, and the soul enters a tunnel vision through which it sees in a distance what's happening in the external world. Emotions belong to our spacesuit. In case of distress, the hypothalamus swarms the body with hormones, which conjures a sensation of aggression or fear or disgust. Hence, before the ego and soul can react to adverse situations constructively, they need to remove themselves from the emotional sway. That's the emotional distancing. More than 2000 years ago, Zeno of Citium, a Greek philosopher, turned this psychological insight into a philosophy. That's the Stoicism. The Romans adapted this philosophy and created the most successful empire ever, which lasted 1000 years. Animals experience the same emotional surges as we do, but when the danger is gone, they shake it off and forget about it. They literally shake off the adrenaline. Humans, on the other hand, suffer also from memories, thoughts, ideas, and images that trigger negative emotional responses. For example, the memories of traumatic events. Also, religion and politics can do that to us with intrusive thoughts. Traumatic memories and or intrusive thoughts make emotions chronic. Aggression turns into anger and fear into anxiety. On a personal level, this leads to psychological disorders. And on a social level, this leads to emotional epidemics, as I discussed in the previous video. Now, savor this. we don't really suffer from adversity. Yeah, we suffer our body's emotional reaction to it. And later on, we suffer our memory of the adverse situation, which triggers again the emotions. And all of that suffering is made up by our body. Suffering is an illusion, as Buddha already revealed to the world 2,500 years ago. But, of course, the illusion is real. We experience it and we need to deal with it. So, what about returning to Stoicism? The Age of Reason tried that, unfortunately the wrong way. The Age of Reason, or Enlightenment, was an intellectual philosophical movement that flourished during the 17th and 18th century. People dealt with experiences with the right side of the brain, the Mr. Spock ideal. The error, they suppressed emotions and what's related to emotions, sex. And the whole affair, the whole social affair, escalated in a collective tsunami of psychological disorders and drug abuse in the late 19th century. That's when people like Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud appeared. So instead of suppressing emotions, we need to find outlets and or transform them. The Greek excelled at transforming emotional energies into feelings, hence all the great Greek art. The Romans were good at emotional outletting, for example through games and partying. The Age of Reason failed because an unguided intellect always fails. The intellect is just a tool. Garbage in, intelligent garbage out. Religion used to guide the intellect, but religion collapsed during the late 19th century as well, leaving people in intelligent confusion and emotional turmoil. 2 world wars followed. Mind that lack of emotions is dangerous too. Psychopaths lean towards cruelty because they lack social emotions like loneliness, embarrassment, and sympathy. The enlightened solution is the cultivation of feelings which come from the soul, like love, happiness, sense of purpose, and sense of beauty. To fully appreciate this, one needs to embrace the difference between emotions, which come from the body, and between feelings, which come from the soul, which we take from another realm into this physical world. I'll add a link to an article to the video description. So one goal of enlightenment is the emancipation from emotions and attune to feelings instead. For the reasons mentioned, all enlightenment traditions inspire aspirants to remove themselves from the world, to some extent at least, for example by entering monasteries, in order to minimize the exposure to adversity and emotional triggers. And all true enlightenment traditions promote the cultivations of feelings and the practice of non-violence. On a side note, this makes it easy to differentiate enlightenment communities from cults. In the first case, it's all about love and empathy. Cult leaders, on the other hand, manipulate their members emotionally. Emotional distancing does not aim at suppression or forgetting emotions or traumatic events. It redirects emotional surges to positive and feely responses. Zeno of Citium called them virtues. And this requires planning and practice, because when we have an emotional surge, it's already too late to come up with a solution. The plan and the practice need to be in place beforehand. So when you sense an unwanted emotion rising, it's important to recognize the trigger. Is it an external event? Does something annoy you? Or is it an internal event, like a memory, a thought, or idea, or image? And it's good to note that down and review it later, so you can see patterns in things and events that trigger emotions, unwanted emotions in you. After you realize what is triggering your emotion, remind yourself that the brain is making this up. Say something like, my body has an emotional reaction. That's already a little distancing. It might happen that the mind enters a stage of rummaging at this point, yeah, going around and around the event that makes you angry and imagining all sort of things. For example, a different outcome of what has happened, the consequences the event can have, and wondering about what to do. And if this rummaging brings forth negative thoughts or imaginations, they will trigger even more negative emotional responses. Yeah, and that creates a vicious circle that pulls you down the rummaging rabbit hole. Yeah, the thing is, you can't stop the mind. Once it's going, it's going. Yeah, but you can distance yourself from that rummaging. Yeah, and take a step back in your mind. Take a step back from your mind, and watch it like you watch TV. And just let it happen. Say, my mind is having a fit, and my body is having an emotional reaction to those fits. Yeah, and then wait until your mind burns out. Yeah, which is probably the next day. Yeah, after you slept over the whole thing. Yeah, but it helps also you to write down whatever the mind rummages about, because every time you write something down, the mind will think, okay, it's now stored, it's preserved, and I don't need to think about it anymore. And then you redirect the emotional surge to a positive response using some tiny ritual. This is important. A ritual is important because a ritual is a habit. And when that habit becomes automatic, you don't need to spend energy for the redirection of an emotional surge to a feeling. Yeah. So how can that ritual look like? It can be a simple question. For example, if you're prone to anxiety, ask yourself, would worry help? Yeah, would it help that I'm scared now? Yeah, and I copied this. This is not from me. I copied this from Rudolf Abel in the movie Bridge of Spies. In case you haven't seen it, I'll put a link to the scene in the show notes. Actually, pretty funny. Yeah, or use this little gem from After Earth. Yeah, I quote: "Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist." And then after you redirect the emotional surges into a more positive response, you initiate the positive feely response. Yeah. So for example, if you have arachnophobia, yeah, practice empathy with spiders. And remember the positive feely response, you need to prepare that beforehand. Yeah, you cannot make that up when you have your emotional surge. So let me give you an example. If you have arachnophobia, when you're cool, yeah, you practice empathy with spiders. Put yourself into the paws of the spider. It's a living being, just like you, that wants to thrive and mate. Yeah, summon some sympathy for it. For example, for killing flies or mosquitoes that would otherwise bother you. Yeah, and then you evolve this empathy with thoughts and images and ideas, and then you can take that even a step further and do that with people. Yeah, you start with a spider and then you do it with people. Yeah, it also helps to think cosmic. Yeah, from the soul's perspective. Yeah. If there's an adverse situation, just ask yourself, what does it mean for my soul? Yeah, will it matter in 100 years from now? Will it matter in 10 years from now? In 1 year from now? Will it matter tomorrow? That will already help you to distance yourself. The final step is then to conjure feelings like happiness, love, a sense of beauty, or a sense of purpose. So think about something that you find very beautiful, or think about the purpose of your life. Try to express unconditional love for everything, and just be happy. Yeah, be unconditionally happy. Thank you for watching this episode of the Inspiration and Enlightenment Slow Talk. Please help spreading the light with a like and a share, and don't forget to subscribe. Love and light.